Did you know that stepping into a medieval castle was like walking into a stench so bad it could make your eyes water? Imagine a mix of rotting food, unwashed bodies, and something far worse lurking in the corners. Why did these grand fortresses, the pride of kings and knights, smell like a nightmare? Today, we're diving deep into the shocking secrets of medieval castle life, revealing the smells that haunted every hall and why they were impossible to escape. Stick around, because what you're about to learn will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about these iconic strongholds. Let's step back in time and uncover the truth. Trust me, you won't believe what's coming next. Picture this. It's the 13th century, and you're standing in the great hall of a towering stone castle. The air is thick, heavy with odors that cling to your clothes. You might think castles were pristine, with polished floors and fresh air wafting through, but the reality was far grimier. The first thing that hits you is the smell of the people. Back then, bathing wasn't a daily ritual. Most folks, even nobles, washed maybe once a month, if that. Sweat, dirt, and grime built up, creating a human musk that filled every room. Add to that the fact that castles housed dozens, sometimes hundreds of people, knights, servants, cooks, and livestock all under one roof. Yes, livestock. Cows, pigs, and chickens often roamed the courtyards or were kept in pens just outside the kitchens, their odors drifting through open windows. Curious about what it was like to live in this stink? Drop a comment below and tell me, could you handle a week in a medieval castle? Now, let's talk about the kitchens, because they were a major source of the castle's stench. These weren't the clean, stainless steel setups we know today. Medieval kitchens were chaotic, smoky, and packed with smells that could turn your stomach. Cooks roasted meat over open fires, and the smoke didn't always escape through the crude chimneys. Grease splattered everywhere, soaking into the walls and floors. Food scraps piled up, attracting rats and insects, which added their own funky aroma to the mix. And here's a wild fact. Preservation methods like salting or smoking meat didn't exactly make things smell better. Salted fish, a staple in many castles, gave off a pungent, briny odor that could linger for days. Imagine eating dinner while the kitchen next door churns out these smells. Want to know the weirdest food they ate? Let me know in the comments. What medieval dish would you try or avoid at all costs? But the kitchens were just the beginning. Let's walk down the corridor to the guardrobes, medieval toilets that were frankly a horror show. These were often just holes in a stone bench, with waste dropping into a pit below, or worse, straight into the moat. No flushing, no air fresheners, just a constant, eye-watering stink. In larger castles, garderobes were shared, so you'd be sitting elbow to elbow with someone else, trying to ignore the smell rising from below. Servants rarely cleaned these pits, and when they did, the process was so foul it made the whole castle reek even more. Some castles even had gong farmers, workers paid to shovel out the waste at night. Talk about a job nobody wanted. Think you could stomach using a garderobe? Share your thoughts below. Would you brave it or hold it in? As we move through the castle, you might notice another smell creeping in: dampness and decay. Castles were built to withstand sieges, not to stay fresh. Thick stone walls trapped moisture, especially in rainy places like England or Scotland. Mold and mildew grew in dark corners, giving off a musty, earthy odor. Wooden beams and furniture absorbed the damp, rotting slowly over time. In winter, the cold made it worse. Fires burned constantly to keep people warm, but the smoke mixed with the damp air, creating a haze that stung your eyes and clung to your hair. It's hard to imagine now, but even the tapestries, those beautiful woven artworks, were breeding grounds for mold. They soaked up every smell in the castle, from smoke to sweat, and held on to them like a sponge. Ever wondered what it was like to sleep in a room like this? Drop a comment. Would you trade your cozy bed for a medieval one? Let's step outside for a moment because the castle courtyard wasn't exactly a breath of fresh air either. This was where the real chaos happened. Blacksmiths hammered away, their forges pumping out acrid smoke. Stable hands mucked out horse stalls, piling manure in heaps that could sit for days before being carted off. And don't forget the animals. Dogs, hawks, and even peacocks roamed the grounds, leaving droppings everywhere. In some castles, the courtyard doubled as a marketplace, with vendors selling everything from fresh fish to pungent cheeses. All these smells mixed together, carried by the wind into every open window. It's a miracle anyone could focus with this sensory overload. What do you think was the worst smell in the courtyard? Let me know in the comments. Manure, fish, or something else? Now, here's where it gets really shocking. Medieval people didn't just tolerate these smells. They had ways to fight back, and some of them were downright bizarre. Wealthy lords and ladies used pomanders, little metal balls filled with herbs like lavender or cloves, to mask the stench. They'd carry these everywhere, sniffing them like a medieval air freshener. Others burned incense or scattered sweet-smelling rushes on the floor, but these fixes were temporary and mostly for the rich. Poorer servants? They just dealt with it. Some even believed bad smells could ward off disease, so they avoided cleaning too much. Crazy, right? This makes you wonder, were they on to something, or just making things worse? Share your guess below. Did medieval people know what they were doing? Or were they clueless about hygiene? As we wander through the castle, you might be thinking, how did anyone live like this? Well, part of the answer lies in their mindset. Medieval people were used to strong smells. Life was raw, unfiltered, and connected to the earth. What we'd call gross was just normal to them. A knight might sit down to a feast, surrounded by the smell of smoke and unwashed bodies, and not bat an eye. But that doesn't mean they loved it. Chronicles from the time mention complaints about foul air, especially in crowded castles during sieges, when waste and rot piled up with no escape. One monk wrote that the stench in a besieged castle was so bad it offended the very heavens. Can you imagine being stuck in that? Tell me in the comments, what would you do to survive a smelly siege? Let's zoom out for a second and think about why this matters. Castles weren't just buildings. They were symbols of power, wealth, and survival. But behind the grand walls and soaring towers, life was messy, smelly, and human. The smells tell us a story about how people lived, what they valued, and how they coped with challenges we can barely imagine today. From the smoky kitchens to the moldy tapestries, every whiff was a reminder that even the mightiest lords couldn't escape the realities of their time. It makes you appreciate modern plumbing and air conditioning, doesn't it? What's one modern convenience you'd miss most in a medieval castle? Drop it in the comments, I'm curious. Before we wrap up, let's talk about one last surprising detail. Some smells were actually a status symbol. Nobles went to great lengths to import exotic spices like cinnamon or saffron, which gave their feasts a sweet, expensive aroma. These scents were a flex, showing off their wealth to every guest who walked through the door. Meanwhile, the peasants outside were lucky to have a fire to keep warm, let alone a fancy spice to mask the smell of their stew. It's a stark reminder of the gap between rich and poor, even in something as simple as smell. Makes you wonder, what smells today scream luxury to you? Share your thoughts below. Is it a fancy perfume, a new car, or something else? So, there you have it. The smelly, shocking truth about medieval castles. From the reeking guard robes to the smoky kitchens, these fortresses were a far cry from the fairy tale palaces we imagine. Next time you see a castle in a movie, picture the odors swirling around every corner. It'll change the way you see history. If you love diving into this stinky past, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more wild medieval secrets. And don't miss our next video, where we'll uncover another surprising truth about life in the Middle Ages. You won't want to miss it. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway from today's video, and let's keep the conversation going. See you in the next one.